During Hurricane Katrina, one of our local grocery stores flooded. It had like 6 or 8 feet of water in it. And as the water subsided, the owners put guards out in front of the grocery store to prevent it from being broken into or pillaged. And people gathered outside the store, and many of those that gathered outside had lost everything. I mean, no house, no cars. All their belongings were washed away in that storm. And they were there just to hopefully get a couple supplies so they could make it through the next couple of days. And the guards realized there's no power in the store. Most of the things in the store were going to spoil within the next 24 hours. And so they opened the doors and let those people come in and take what they needed. Mercy prevailed. And that's pretty much the message in today's gospel. Jesus is walking through a field of grain on a Sabbath. And the apostles are working, according to the Jewish law. So working meant they would break off a head of grain, they'd rub it in their hands, they'd take the stalk out, and then they'd eat the grain. And that was considered work in the strict Jewish law for the Sabbath and how you keep the Sabbath. And Jesus makes it clear that he is the Lord of the Sabbath and that mercy prevails because they were hungry and they needed food. And the lesson for us is that we need to let mercy prevail in our lives and see how important mercy is to Jesus and how he treated people mercifully. Now, our first reading from St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians. We've been reading out of that for this past week. And there's big problems in Corinth. And Corinth is the city in Greece, in southern Greece there. And St. Paul established a good, strong church there. But there's big problems. They're divided into 3 main factions. And they're acting like sports fans. And they're divided based on who their leader is. And so some of them are following St. Paul, some are following St. Peter, and some are following this guy named Apollos, who was an incredible preacher. And so, like sports fans, they were just bickering at each other. So it'd be like, take Bay St. Louis and divide it into 3 parts. There'd be the Saints part, there'd be the Atlanta Falcons part, and then there'd be the Dallas Cowboys part. There'd be a lot of tension and a lot of strife and a lot of we're better than you and not very Christian attitudes going on if something like that happened. That's what the situation was in Corinth. And it was so bad, there's danger of the church in Corinth splitting. And so Paul is really upset. And so he chastises them, but he does it in a sarcastic manner. He says, you're rich kings. And you practically have heaven in hand because of the way you live. And here I am, nothing but a poor apostle. And he says, I'm a spectacle, a fool for Christ, weak, hungry, thirsty, poorly clad, and roughly treated. But there you are as kings, And he calls those people in Corinth to humility and charity, and tells them how important this Christian unity is. And he tells them they need to imitate Jesus, they need to imitate the apostles in the way they act. And he tells them how Christians should act. He says, when ridiculed, we bless. When persecuted, we endure. And when slandered, we respond gently. Okay? And so Paul's point is that it takes humility and charity in order to form Christian unity. And he calls all of us to Christian unity. So we need to be charitable. Okay? We need to be humble. And we need to basically act like Jesus did, to imitate Jesus and imitate the apostles.